This book is amazing. It's amazing. This is going to be a three-part review, okay? First off, no spoilers. Then we'll talk about the TV show and have a few spoilers, and then I'll go full spoiler mode. I'll warn you before we start the spoilers. So no spoilers to start. Under the Dome. Don't be fooled by everyone hating the TV show. This is one of the best books I have ever read in my life, especially out of all the 1,000-page, bangers like that are really big. This is the best 1,000-pager. It's up there. It's up there. Top 3 for sure. My favorite Stephen King novel, I think. It used to be Misery when I was a kid. I loved that book. Now I think it's Under the Dome. Why is it so good? Again, with no spoilers, the premise is just immediately really cool. In the first 3 pages of the book, a giant invisible dome descends on the small town of Chester's Mill, I think it's called. I'm so excited I can't remember the name of the town. And encloses them into an unescapable dome. Like on page 3, a plane crashes into the dome. A woodchuck gets cut in half. Like immediate carnage, car crashes. No one can see it. People are just running into the thing and breaking their nose. Just what the fuck, and no one can get out, and this small town is completely trapped. And then, around page 20, the very last thing I'll say in the spoiler-free section, they get in touch with the military. Colonel Cox calls the main character at the start of the book, Dale Barbara, and they're talking. Dale's inside the dome, and Colonel Cox is outside. And the book ends up just being all about what happens when this small town is inexplicably trapped in this dome, and the tensions within the town, conflicts, political conflicts, who runs the town, Democrats, Republicans, drug, dealers, and people maybe murdering other people, supposedly, allegedly, and then how's that going to play out? And no one can escape. You killed somebody, you can't leave town, you can't run away. So just this everyone is stuck together, stuck in there, and it creates this ticking time bomb as all the various things happen. And it's so crazy. The writing style is really easy to read, and the characters are really strong. So you're just getting sucked in, and you're like, oh my god, this character and that character are bound to end up fighting, and this dude and that dude, they don't get along, and this guy has a gun, and that guy's got his friend who's, dealing meth, and that's not going to end well. And just Stephen King does a great job of keeping it exciting from the beginning with action right away as the dome descends and chaos ensues. But he also has this slow burn of the character conflicts where it takes hundreds of pages before these big confrontations start happening. And it's the early part of the book, the confrontations and the action is so exciting that you can't really imagine it can build much further, but it just does. It keeps building, and the chaos and the action and the terror and the horror just builds so well, and it really is a crescendo from beginning to the end with I'm not going to say what happens, but the end is the most intense part by far. It's just like playing a video game where the difficulty level keeps going up. That's what it feels like the characters have to do. And he really brings the small town to life. By the time you're in this book, a few hundred pages, you feel like you live in this town. You're like, okay, I can smell the air. I can see the people. I can just feel the vibe. He just brings you in. The character writing is so good, and you see the world from many different perspectives. There's even a couple chapters from the perspective of one of the characters' dogs, and those are really fun. It's just lots of fun stuff. So now we're going to talk about the TV show. TV show spoilers incoming for at least the premise and how it's different. This will spoil some aspects, a small aspect of the book as well. Basically, the TV show starts out by showing that there's aliens involved. So the spoiler, it's really not that important for the book. I had a vague awareness of this going in. I wasn't really sure. But basically, the dome is because aliens. But in the show, they make that obvious at the very beginning. Aliens are involved and they're controlling humans. Whereas in the book, the aliens don't have any mind control. The dome ends up being from these aliens, and, basically they're able to eventually, spoiler alert, convince them to get rid of the dome at the very end, right? But in the TV show, it's all about the aliens and this cosmic battle and the humans getting caught up in it, which is nothing what the book is about. The book is about this small town. Everyone's trapped in this dome, and over a surprisingly short amount of time, all hell breaks loose until most people in the town end up dead for a bunch of reasons. The show making it about this mystery with the aliens is so unrelated to the core premise of the book, and making it worse, the book, we're increasingly, we're kind of getting it, we're going to start getting into book spoilers as well now. So we're basically in the full spoiler, we're approaching full spoilers now, but like the book takes place over 8 days, whereas the TV show, the first episode is 6 weeks or something. So it's like, the whole point of the book is like, on day 1, the dome descends and everyone's like, okay guys, let's stick together, we're going to figure this out. And on day 8, we are now officially all the way in spoiler land. On day 8, barely anyone's left. Like, by the start of the last day before the dome goes up, there's like 30 people left from a town of 1,000 people. Like, the book is this insane apocalypse tale of a small town basically experiencing a micro-apocalypse over the course of 8 days, largely as the result of the kind of like evil character of Big Jim and his son, who are murdering and committing sex crimes, trying to avoid the YouTube filter, and, you know, really horrible stuff. And like, all these, just the way that power quickly corrupts these people, and people who maybe weren't even bad people seemingly are now murdering and pillaging and committing sex crimes and doing all this horrible shit, while the good guys are like desperately trying to get rid of this dome and get the hell out of there. The show just throws all that in the trash. And it really, from what I was reading, I haven't even watched it. I really don't want to because it sounds so bad. It seems like they ruined all the characters too. Like, Stephen King has these awesome characters, and yeah, so don't watch the show, or if you did, it's not even like representative of the book. The show is like, they took the premise and made something way, way worse with it, which is really too bad, because it would make an amazing miniseries, or even like a long movie maybe, if they just did it faithfully to the book. One last thing I want to talk about, and this is the most spoilericious part of the whole video, is that the ending of the book is fucking awesome. So like, the air quality in the dome is getting worse. The political situation disintegrates until it's just like the kind of like fascist Big Jim police force is just shooting down all the opposition, and it's basically just everyone is gunning each other down, and the body count is rising. And there's been so many deaths and so many fucked up things that by the time the meth factory explodes, you kind of forget that it could possibly get worse. You're like, there's no way it could get worse. It gets worse. And it ends up with that giant explosion where the air in the dome is no longer even inhabitable, and almost everyone dies, and like a kid is, you know, surviving with an oxygen tank under a fucking sack of potatoes, and like the main crew of the main characters are like, you know, huddled next to the dome with the giant fans blowing air that just barely can permeate through. They can just barely get enough air to breathe. Like, the ending is so intense, and it's just, I can't believe how epic it is. Like, it's like Lord of the Rings, Frodo at the at Mount Doom getting his finger cut off with the ring falling into the fire. Like, it's that vibe. Like, I remember, like, just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, like, they're all gasping for breath at the edge of the dome, and then it's like, oh, and one of the kids just dies. There's like 5 kids in the book who have kind of had plot armor as everyone else is dying. They just keep surviving. Nope, the dog dies. One of the kids dies. Like, everyone is dying. It's just so fucking brutal. But at the end, somehow, it still feels like a happy ending because, you know, Barbie and Julia, the newspaper editor, like, they actually do get out. And I believe Rusty and Linda both stay alive. Joe, the 13-year-old kid with Nori, his, like, the girl that he's kind of friends with, and the mom, and, like, all of them. I think Benny lives. Like, enough of the characters live that even though the carnage is so brutal and almost everyone you got to know throughout the book is dead, it still somehow, in a weird way, just feels like a happy ending, because you start with Barbie, Dale Barbara, and at the end, there he is with his newfound romantic companion, Julia, who is in her own right and a very strong character. Just a really, really awesome ending. Basically, long story short, you gotta read this book. If you like books, if you're open to a 1,000-pager, and you like Stephen King, like, just get it and read it. I mean, holy crap. Just read it. Just read it, dude. I don't know if it's tough to say. I've read a few incredible books this year. I've read at least a few potential best of the year, but this might be my favorite book of the year. This one's up there. I think Seven Eves from Neil Stephenson is up there. I don't know what else might be up there, but like there's a few candidates. This might be my favorite book of the year. So yeah, thanks for listening. That's all I got. Flux signing out.